Welcome everyone. Today's video is more than just an economic analysis. It's a critical exploration of a potential crisis that could affect us all. We're diving into Ray Dalio's latest warnings about the United States facing a severe debt crisis. Dalio, with his unmatched expertise in macroeconomics, has voiced concerns that could have profound implications for the US and the global economy. We'll dissect his views, explore the underpinnings of this crisis, and discuss what it could mean for our future. So let's get into the intricacies of this looming economic challenge. Before we delve into the intricacies of the impending debt crisis, it's crucial to understand the perspective and insights of Ray Dalio. As the mastermind behind Bridgewater Associates, one of the most significant hedge funds in the world, Dalio's economic forecasts have been revered for their accuracy and depth. His ability to predict and interpret complex economic trends has placed him in a league of his own among financial experts. His recent conversation with CNBC isn't just a routine market analysis, it's a profound warning from a seasoned expert deeply concerned about the trajectory of the U.S. economy. Dalio's assessment of the U.S. debt situation is rooted in a comprehensive understanding of historical economic patterns, current financial data, and future projections. He points out that the U.S., despite being one of the wealthiest nations, is facing an alarming level of debt, a situation that could spiral into a full-blown crisis if not addressed promptly. According to Dalio, this isn't just about high government spending or the national deficit. It's about the systemic risks posed to the entire economic structure of the country. The debt crisis, as Dalio highlights, could lead to reduced confidence in the U.S. dollar, increased borrowing costs, and a possible slowdown in economic growth. Dalio's warnings are grounded in a series of interlinked economic factors. He notes the rising national debt, compounded by ongoing budget deficits, as a primary concern. Additionally, Dalio points to the Federal Reserve's monetary policies, including low interest rates and quantitative easing, which have, in some ways, masked the severity of the debt issue. This artificial support of the economy, according to Dalio, cannot be sustained indefinitely without serious consequences. The risk, he suggests, is that continued reliance on such policies could lead to a devaluation of the dollar and a loss of confidence among international investors, which could escalate the crisis further. Importantly, Dalio's analysis isn't just a critique, it's a call to action. He emphasizes the need for a strategic approach to address the debt issue, suggesting that a combination of fiscal prudence, effective monetary policies, and structural economic reforms is essential. Dalio warns that without significant changes in how the U.S. manages its debt, the country could face a period of economic stagnation or decline, affecting everything from global trade to the individual financial well-being of American citizens. His message is clear. The time to address the U.S. debt crisis is now, before the consequences become unmanageable. In summarizing Dalio's insights, it's evident that his concern extends beyond mere financial metrics. He is highlighting a potential shift in the global economic order, where the U.S.'s long-standing position as an economic powerhouse could be jeopardized. This is a scenario that demands attention, not just from economists and policymakers, but from everyone who has a stake in the economic future, be it as a consumer, investor, or citizen. Dalio's analysis serves as a wake-up call to acknowledge and address the looming challenges that lie ahead for the U.S. economy. To fully understand the debt crisis that Ray Dalio highlights, it is crucial to examine what it means when a country like the United States finds itself in an unsustainable debt situation. Let us compare the nation to a family. Just as a family might find itself in financial trouble if it consistently spends more than it earns, similarly, a country can find itself in crisis if its debt is growing faster than its economy. This situation is of particular concern in the United States, where the national debt has reached historic levels. The concept of a debt crisis goes beyond simply having a lot of debt. It is a condition in which a nation's debt becomes so large that it begins to have negative effects on the economy. This can happen when the cost of servicing the debt, that is, the amount needed to pay interest and repay the debt, becomes so high that it limits the government's ability to finance essential services or invest in the economy. In addition, high debt levels can undermine investor confidence in the country's ability to manage its finances, leading to a vicious cycle of rising borrowing costs and further debt. Dalio points out that the U.S. debt situation is exacerbated by a number of factors. One is the continued reliance on low interest rates, which in recent years have made it relatively cheap for the government to borrow large sums of money. However, this approach has its limitations. As inflation rises, the Federal Reserve may be forced to raise interest rates to control it, which would make servicing the debt significantly more expensive. This scenario could lead to drastic cuts in government spending or tax increases, both of which are potentially harmful to economic growth. Another key aspect that Dalio highlights is the role of trust. Investor confidence in the U.S. government and its currency, the dollar, has been a pillar of global economic stability. However, if this trust erodes due to rising debt and concerns about fiscal sustainability, the consequences could be global. We could see a decline in the value of the dollar, increases in interest rates, and a reduced ability of the United States to positively influence the global economy. In summary, the debt crisis is a complex problem with implications that go far beyond the numbers on the balance sheet. It is a delicate balance between managing existing debt, maintaining investor confidence, and promoting sustainable economic growth. Decisions made now will impact not only the current economy, but also future generations. It is an issue that touches every citizen, requiring deep understanding and serious thinking about how to navigate these turbulent waters. Looking at the current economic landscape in the United States, a complex and worrisome picture emerges. At the center of this scenario is inflation, which currently stands at around 3.2%. This number, however, is not just an abstract indicator, it represents an alarming sign of the nation's economic health. Inflation directly affects the purchasing power of consumers, reducing the real value of their incomes and savings. In a situation where prices of goods and services are rising but wages are not keeping pace, households are faced with difficult choices about how to spend their money. This rise in inflation is not an isolated event. It is intrinsically linked to the broader issue of the national debt. As the government struggles to manage and service its growing debt, inflationary pressures may intensify. This is due in part to monetary policies adopted to stimulate the economy, such as printing more money, which can depreciate the currency and further fuel inflation. This cycle of debt and inflation creates an unstable economic environment where short-term policies can have unforeseen and potentially damaging long-term effects. In addition to inflation, there are other significant implications of the current U.S. debt situation. For example, the growing public debt may limit the government's ability to respond to future economic crises or emergencies. If a large portion of the federal budget is devoted to debt service, this reduces the fiscal flexibility needed to invest in infrastructure, education, public health, and other areas vital to the long-term well-being of the nation. In addition, high debt levels can negatively affect the country's credit rating, increasing borrowing costs and making it more difficult for the government to finance future projects. Another important consideration is the impact on interest rates. If investors begin to perceive increased risk in holding U.S. debt securities, they may demand higher interest rates to compensate. This can lead to higher borrowing costs for the government, which, in turn, could result in a further increase in debt. In addition, higher interest rates may negatively affect the housing market, credit-dependent businesses, and consumers with debt such as mortgages and education loans. Ultimately, the current U.S. debt situation and related inflation pose challenges not only at the macroeconomic level, but also in the daily lives of Americans. On the one hand, there is a need to manage and reduce the national debt to ensure long-term economic stability. On the other hand, it is critical to do so in a way that minimizes the negative impact on families, businesses, and the economy at large. This is the challenge facing the country, finding the right balance between reducing debt and maintaining sustainable and inclusive economic growth. In the face of the current economic scenario, several strategies emerge that could be adopted to address the debt crisis in the United States. Ray Dalio stresses the importance of a balanced approach that not only addresses the growing debt but also promotes sustainable economic growth. One of the primary solutions proposed is to manage and reduce the federal deficit. This would require a combination of increased revenue potentially through tax reforms and reduced government spending. Increased revenue could be achieved through various measures, such as raising taxes on certain income brackets or closing tax loopholes. However, this path presents challenges. Significant tax increases can be politically unpopular and could have a negative impact on economic growth and investment. In addition, it is essential that any tax reform is fair and does not exacerbate economic inequalities that already exist in society. With regard to spending reductions, the government could examine areas where cost cuts can be implemented without compromising essential services such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. This could include streamlining government operations, eliminating inefficient or duplicative programs, and promoting greater efficiency in spending. However, significant spending cuts can also have social and political implications, especially if they affect programs that many citizens rely on. Another potential solution is debt restructuring. This could involve negotiating more favorable terms for existing loans or converting some types of debt to forms with more manageable terms. While this strategy could help reduce the immediate debt service burden, it must be carefully managed to avoid undermining investor confidence in the country's long-term solvency. In addition to these fiscal and financial measures, adopting structural reforms to stimulate economic growth is also crucial. This could include investments in key sectors such as technology, education, and green infrastructure, which not only create jobs but also position the economy for long-term sustainable growth. These investments, if well directed, can generate significant returns and help reduce the debt-to-GDP ratio over time. Finally, it is critical to maintain an open and constructive dialogue between government, business, and citizens to develop and implement these solutions. The debt crisis is not just a government problem. It is a problem that touches every aspect of society. Addressing it requires a collaborative, multi-stakeholder approach, with all stakeholders working together to strike a balance between the need for fiscal stability and the promotion of a fair and prosperous society. In conclusion, the warning signs are clear. The U.S. debt crisis is a looming issue with serious potential consequences. Dalio's insights provide a starting point for understanding and addressing this challenge. We invite you to share your thoughts. Do you agree with Dalio's assessment? What steps do you believe are necessary to navigate this crisis? Your opinions are valuable, and we encourage a lively discussion in the comments section. Don't miss out on our special introductory offer to gain knowledge that could be crucial in these uncertain times. Thank you for joining us in this important exploration of our economic future. If you found this discussion enlightening, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth economic analyses. Together, we can navigate these complex economic times with knowledge and insight. Stay tuned for more content that keeps you informed and ahead of the curve. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.